Please be seated. I feel really privileged to moderate another fully female discussion. Welcome, ladies. Thank you. So, our topic is the state that is us, the transformative power of civil society. And the rules are basically the same. We changed the format again. No solo presentations. So we will have just regular discussion. And now I will introduce our panelists who will have up to 7 minutes for their remarks. Liubov Galan. Should I say it in English, or it's better to? No, I will. Yeah. Human rights activist, head, co-founder of the Human Rights Center for Servicemen Pryncip. Alin Bail-Kremer, co-founder of the European collective Stand with Ukraine. She regularly collaborates with different magazines. She was previously one of the leaders of the French Association of Victims of Terrorism and is now a member of the National Office of SOS Racism and of the Association UNS January. Maria Lypatska, chair of the NGO Brand Ukraine and also an advisor to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on strategic communications. Olha Omelianchuk, head of the communications department at the Come Back Alive Foundation. And Iryna Zaslavets, journalist, volunteer, and founder of the public organization iDonor. Welcome. And I really enjoy this topic because I also represent civil society. And to be honest, it's so, and also I used to be within the state system a few times. So it always fascinates me how it works in Ukraine, how people are moving from the government to civil society and vice versa. And I think that at some point this experience, this transition helps to create a political culture. But also, if we look at some bad sides of this, it doesn't help to create institutional capacity or institutional memory. So today we will talk about one of the most prominent Ukrainian civil society organizations and their projects. And I would like you to focus not only on your own projects, of course you will tell a lot what you are doing, but to give us a bigger picture how it fits into the state functioning. So, Liubov, we will start with you. My question is, since your job is to ensure that the rights of the military are respected, and obviously we all know that the war began in 2014, and apparently many defense mechanisms had to be developed by the state by the time of the full-scale invasion. Is it so? And which of your expertise has come in handy the most? Thank you.
Дякую, я буду говорити українською.
Thank you very much. I will be speaking Ukrainian.
Наша організація була заснована
Our organization was founded this year, so we are pretty young. This organization was initiated by Masinaiem. He was supposed to be here today and spoil our female panel discussion, but fortunately, unfortunately, Naiem is in the front line. He continues performing his military duty, so please give him a rapturous round of applause. He will definitely hear it. For me, it's a personal story. This is the story of my family. this return to military service and to the front line, even following severe injuries. When we founded our organization and when we expanded the audience that we were working with, we confirmed this statement that Ukraine's armed forces and other defense forces in Ukraine are an important place for a lot of people, and some of them feel this duty or they have the right expertise that compels them to go back to military service. And this is exactly for these competence that we started crafting legal tools and mechanisms. Unfortunately, a lot of the military are disappointed. Those people who are protecting our country are under a lot of stress and strain. It's challenging from a psychological and physical perspective. So if there are any glitches at governmental level, it's extremely painful and nettlesome. I will never forget the calls of service members who have been serving on a contractual basis since youth, and they are talking bitterly about their military unit because they were abandoned or they did not fully receive required treatment or medical aid. So this is exactly the problem that we decided to attend to. Each and every organization that works with service members or combat veterans formulates their own goals and objectives, and they have their own reasons for doing that. On the one hand, we have this high regard for the military. We have this feeling of personal responsibility to support them and lend them a helping hand. But care for our military goes beyond that. It's a great cause that we all have to do and be engaged in. We want to make sure that their experience of military service will evoke a sense of honor and dignity, that your loyalty will not be disrupted and impaired because of some imperfect governmental mechanisms. We do understand that we will have to continue grappling with Russia for years and years to come because we have Russia as our neighbor, so we need to fight for the prestige and authority of military service in Ukraine. Unfortunately, right now, Ukraine's armed forces are the largest employer in Ukraine. It's all about the protection of the military, standards, healthcare, social protection. It's one of the priorities for our country, in particular for the NGOs and CSOs that engage in this domain. What are some of our accomplishments and lessons learned? I've been a human rights activist for multiple years, and even before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, I often faced this question whether it was the right state stance to criticize your government. And believe me, this is the question that we've heard on multiple occasions since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, whether it's ethical to criticize or shed light on some shortcomings in the country in the midst of the raging war. But why do we continue talking about the problems that we detect? Why do we continue advocating for changes? Why are we engaged in the reform of such sectors and security, the military, combat veterans? First and foremost, we believe that honest dialogue and honest conversation is something that differentiates us from Russia. We are ready to be forthcoming about the needs and concerns of our military, what their problems are and what their challenges are in the face of democracy. So this is something that is a differentiating point between us and our enemy. We also want to overcome the institutional crisis. We have a number of people in some line ministries that constitute powerful and robust teams. In 2014, 2015, we believed that we had governmental officials that didn't really have any expertise whatsoever. Now we have these robust and experienced governmental teams, but still we have a number of stakeholders that require our support. We do not strive to replace the government, we just want to help our government grow and become more proficient. Another objective of ours is to help our public servants have more faith in WOW. We have this military medical commissions. It's one of the areas of focus for our organization, and it's one of the sore issues for Ukraine. The topic that has been this elephant in the room for many years. A lot of governmental authorities told us do not really do anything about it. It's not the right time for it. It's not possible. We cannot really do it right now. But it is possible. I cannot really say that we have done the job. We will need to continue exerting public control, and it's one of our key functions, but it's possible, and this is something that we can do in the midst of the war. NGOs can also communicate the best practices to the government. We have Maria Kravchenko present here. She's one of the participants of this forum for many years. Together with her colleagues, she established a service post in one of the military hospitals, and now their standards are used as a methodology for the activities of military and medical commissions across the country. So basically, it's one of our skills and pieces of expertise that were tapped into by the government. And to finish us, I would like to say that we also work with some sensitive and vexing topics. You might know that, unfortunately, we have some foreign organizations that are ready to support of Ukraine, but unfortunately they cannot support combatants. So any projects aimed at protecting the military are not funded. Our big task as NGOs and CSOs is to unleash this potential in Ukraine, and even in the face of the shortage of resources, we need to continue supporting our military and combat veterans. We are on the right track. We are moving towards amassing more and more knowledge and expertise. We have unprecedented showcases of good cooperation between NGOs and line ministries, and we can see that this approach is effective. It does work. We are part of one of the ministerial teams. We do have faith in the fact that this synergy will allow us to build an institutionally mature and responsive system that will be polished by social criticism, and this will be a governmental system that has already become a game changer globally, but we can also become a trendsetter in terms of protecting the rights of the military and combat veterans, in terms of military service standards, and we can also be an example to follow by other countries in terms of helping our military and combat veterans return to civilian life, peaceful life.
First of all, we appreciate your support. We appreciate your stance on the international level. And since I work in communications, I constantly see how our communication experts struggle to maintain the interest to Ukraine, because we all understand that in order to win, we need support of our allies, of our international partners, and that is Russia's aim, to deprive us of this support. So the war is still going on, and we don't know where it will end. So my question is how to maintain this interest to Ukraine. What is your recipe? Thank you. It was to Alin, not Marie. But sorry, you will have a chance to answer this question as well.
Thank you for your question, and thank you for the invitation. It's a key question, it's a challenge, and it's what we are trying to do, especially in France and in Europe. How to summarize, because there is a lot of things to do and a lot of side to work, but to summarize, it could be that to put some the colors of Ukraine everywhere we can. So we are trying since a lot of months to put the yellow and the blue on every side we can. So we organize dozen and dozen gathering in the streets. We we try to speak where we can on the media, on social network, because we have to think that we are facing colonial war, imperialist war, and a genocidal situation. So, and some mountains of propaganda. So we are trying, and we are trying. I hope we contribute to bring out the truth, and it's very important to bring out the truth, and for a better understanding. We are trying, and we are do a lot of things to share the truth, share the history of Ukraine, the people of Ukraine with European and French people, because we know that we do think that it's more difficult to abandon people and cause when you know the people, when you know the cause, when you know the truth. We are trying to build some bridge, some links between cities, between groups, between NGO, French and Ukrainian NGO. And we are very careful also to would like to underline that it's very important in what we do to keep a strong contact with the real needs of Ukrainian people, to be coordinated, because we do think that first, if there is no more country than Ukraine want peace in Europe, no more people than Ukraine, no better Russia than Ukraine, actually. So we have to be close to the reality of what Ukraine is facing, of what people are living, and it's very important to keep in touch, to listen, to do the thing with Ukrainian people, with Ukraine. It's very important for us, and it's very important to, sorry to repeat, but to bring out the truth. And when the war began, I was thinking to the word of Oksana yesterday about the
Oksana Zabushko.
Yes, the lot of experts at the beginning of the war that didn't know anything about Ukraine, about Russia, and write a lot of things so absurd and so dangerous, in fact, because we are facing to a mountain of propaganda, but it's criminal propaganda. And this propaganda, by the way, killing people. People are dying due to this propaganda. So we have to be very, very attentive to if we want peace, to summarize, sorry, I'm a little bit so long, so to summarize, if you want peace, if we want peace, and I do think that all in this room want peace, we have to be aware of the way we envisage each angle, each what we want, because Russian propaganda is not a game. It's very serious, because people are dying actually due to this propaganda. So we have to be in touch and to organize the thing closely to Ukrainian people, Ukrainian needs, and to get victory very soon.
Thank you so much. And yes, indeed, I think that Russia is weaponizing the concept of peace, and this is a struggle for many of us. It's a challenge, I must admit, to explain to our international friends that Ukraine wants peace more than others, but we just don't want peace on Russian terms, and that for Russia, peace means occupation of those territories that Russia has already managed to grasp. And it's an opportunity for Russia to basically strengthen their army, regroup, and gain some time to mobilize more people and attack us again. So this is a challenge indeed for us to explain that what Russia means saying peace is not actually peace at all. Maria, my next question is for you. You are here in two capacities. You are an advisor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, but also you are chair of an NGO. First of all, how do you combine it? How do you combine these two capacities? And what are your major challenges, challenges you face when you promote Ukraine?
Thank you, Liubov, for the question, and thank you for having me here. It's a big pleasure and honor for me. And I really love how this discussion is focused, because I love that we talk about how we can reinforce each other, and I mean civil society and government. One of the previous speakers mentioned that like Ukrainian government is not, current one is not Ukrainian government 2014 anymore, right? And I think my own example and example of like our projects and activities only reinforce that by combining efforts and by uniting efforts, we can actually win. And what I personally really believe, and what I've seen during this last year, that Ukraine's success in communication, in uniting people, in gaining global solidarity, in inspiring actually millions and millions of people abroad, this is the result of this unity and synergy. That's why I really like the angle that we approach this topic. And we in Brand Ukraine, and Brand Ukraine is an organization that helps develop Ukraine's strong and sustainable brand and image in the world. We actually have a couple of projects and campaigns which reinforce this idea and message. And one of them you probably know is Ukraine.ua. It's a digital system, ecosystem of Ukraine, which consists of multiple social media accounts and the website. And it has become, during this year, a powerful voice of Ukraine in the digital sphere, reaching to millions and millions of people abroad. And when I was thinking and preparing for this discussion, I thought of multiple like sides where we can actually complement each other, and Ukrainian is the result and a good example of this synergy between the state and the civil society, because we in our NGO and in civil society in general, we do have certain expertise, definitely more creative solutions. We can do powerful storytelling, we know digital trends. We can actually tell Ukraine's story in a way that will inspire interests and solidarity and support. While the state, and in this case the government, they can actually set the frame. So we could be the voice of the country, of its people, and deliver those messages and those ideas, explain the context behind our war, behind our struggle to millions of people abroad. But it can also do verification and validation, and this is really very important for Ukraine's strategic communications, because I think for everyone here, it's very evident that since 21st February, all of Ukraine's communication should be the powerful and was the powerful voice of truth. And it means that we validated and verified every single fact, every single information, every single news to be credible, and we couldn't let our communication not to be credible. And here, of course, state support was crucial, and a couple of our projects, especially about the topics as sensitive as war crimes, like shedding light, documenting war crimes, verifying statistics, verifying stories. This was really a collaborative effort between multiple governments, institutions, and ministries in our NGO, and I think this is one of the great cases of our work during last year. When you ask about challenges, and of course there are lots of challenges, and I think one of the biggest one is after 21st February, basically the whole world became an audience, a main audience for Ukraine. We had to talk to everyone, and we didn't have that capacity. And you know the main rule of communication: if you talk to everyone, you basically talk to no one. And I think this still remains a struggle to keep the focus, and we all know and discussed today on multiple panels challenges with communicating with global South audiences or non-Western audiences, because I think we can surely say that we succeeded in communication with Western audiences. We got their support. There are still some challenges there. I will not talk about that, but I mean, when we go to Global South and remote regions, and I'm sure you know much more from your experience, that their Russian propaganda and disinformation is very often what shapes Ukraine's perception and knowledge of Ukraine there. Ukraine is not perceived as an independent actor. It's very much Russia's war against Ukraine is very much viewed through the lens of West against Russia. And here, there are lots and lots of challenges to discuss. And I think what's also a challenge for our organization, and I think for many more other actors, is keeping the balance in communication, because we all understand that there is nothing more important than communicating Russia's war against Ukraine at the moment and keeping this global solidarity and communicating with our partners. But at the same time, we all see that, and we've done a couple of research and studies in our team, and we see that war remains naturally the main association with Ukraine. But Ukraine is much more than the war. And building this bridge to post-war recovery, to further investment, tourism, partnership is crucial as well. But keeping this balance is also a challenge which we work with every day. So summing up, I would say that I really like that we talk about the synergy, and I really see the added value in uniting powers and strong sides of both civil society and the government, but also businesses, also creative circles. And I think this is the answer to Ukraine's success and future victory.
Is there any competition between civil society organization and government when it comes to communications? Do you think there is competition?
From my perspective, no. From what I've seen, there are of course challenges and of course things that could be improved for sure. But from what I see, especially in the sphere of strategic communication, there is alignment and there is understanding on who is doing what and how we can all reinforce each other.
Thank you. Olha, my next question is for you. Your organization, Povernys, Zhyvym, Come Back Alive, was established way before the full-scale invasion. So you have an experience of cooperation with the government, particularly with the armed forces. How this cooperation changed through the years? Because I remember back then in 2014, 2015, there was such tension between government and volunteer organization. Is it still there? And are there some structural changes in your cooperation? Thank you.
Я також буду говорити українською. Нагадаю,
I
мене
will also
звуть Оля
speak
Omelianchuk.
Ukrainian. I'm Olha Omelianchuk, and I'm the Communications and Marketing Director of Povernys Zhyvym, Come Back Alive, which is the largest Ukrainian organization helping the army. We were founded in 2014, which means it's for the 10th year that we have been in existence. And if we speak about any transformations while answering your question, I could actually illustrate this through figures, because over the first 8 years of the Russian-Ukrainian war, we collected to help the army about 200 million hryvnias. But for the first year of the full-scale invasion of Russia, we collected more than 7 billion hryvnias. And in USD, this is about $210 million, which is quite an amount of money. This is the money coming from people. And besides my being in charge of communications in this organization, I'm also a journalist for the Reporters magazine, online magazine. And I would like to say that yesterday I paid attention. Well, maybe it's the problem of translation, but maybe not. I paid attention to the fact that even here in Lviv Media Forum, we had the word conflict used in the context of Russia-Ukraine war.
And in the room, we have some colleagues, my friends, whose houses are staying in the temporarily occupied territories. And you know, I've been covering the war since 2014, and I cannot stay indifferent to the use of this term. So before voicing my main judgment, I would ask my colleagues to switch off the light and show the video. This is a reminder of what Russia-Ukraine war is and what it should be called like, not a conflict, definitely.
Iryna.
Та ми хотіли
I'm
показати.
sorry, I'm very
Вибачте, будь
sorry.
ласка.
I was answering, sorry.
Та, якщо
Is it ready? Because, okay.
і якщо можна світло, так, дякую.
So it's the material from Wikipedia about the war as a set of activities aimed at the invasion of other countries' territories. Ukraine still keep resisting. Civilians go to rallies. Come back alive.
Дякую. І от, власне,
Thank you.
це до слова конфлікт.
And this is just an illustration for the fact why we should not use the word conflict, but use the word war. I have 2 more minutes. Okay. This means that I have to be in a hurry. And now I would ask the colleagues to show the presentation, which is in English, and I will tell just in a couple of words what we deal with. So we buy drones for the army, new pickups, thermal imaging devices, and a lot of other things, means of communication including. Please, slide number 3. And what else also changed over this period of time was that the fund got the permission to buy the double designation products, and that's why we are now buying weapons. Before the full-scale invasion, the Comeback Life Fund didn't have a permission to do this, and now in this slide you can see the example of how the society is influencing the weapons procurement processes. This is our collaboration with OKKO, a Ukrainian business coming from here, from Lviv. This is the car fueling stations network, and together with them, we're now collecting 400,000 hryvnias to buy mortars and guns for and the grenade launchers for the territorial defense forces, the representatives of which, by the way, are here in the room. And over the months, almost 100 million has been collected, and I think that these are the figures showing how the society is now influencing the war. Thank you. We are donating, and to tell the truth, I may say that the Povernys Zhyvym is among my
Наступна спікерка буде
and
говорити
I keep
українською,
donating all the
тому я
time.
поставлю своє
So the
питання
next
також
speaker will
українською.
also speak Ukrainian. That's why my question will be in Ukrainian. So you represent a unique and a very relevant entity. And I wonder whether you expect that the functions that you are now performing will be undertaken later by the state or not? Or will this partnership keep existing on a long-term basis even after the end of the war? Or after the end of the acute phase of the war? Thank you for the question. I'm sure that this partnership will keep its existence because it's a highly successful partnership between local authorities, the state authorities, businesses, NGOs, and I will tell you about the results. But again, I would ask to show the video on the Unbroken project. The temperature is 1300 and steel is melt. But you can destroy all this through an explosion. And the wind with the speed of 28 meters per second breaks the tree. Human body is more fragile than any metal, concrete, or tree, but it has got the spirit in it that cannot be broken. That's why we are unbroken. Here you can see all the tragedies of this war. The railway station in Kramatorsk, and this is the family of Stepanenkos. The Bakhmut destroyed, and here is Makita. The residential quarters of Serhivka, and you can see Vladimir and Yakov brothers. Kharkiv and Bohodar are also here. The first evacuation trains of Medzik without frontiers, and 100 wounded soldiers who are brought here at a single moment of time. So we were living together with our patients. And here is Roman, one of the 100. 60 days of treatment. Ihor, our physical rehabilitologist, has actually ensured his rehabilitation. It all started with Roman, but now we have thousands of unbroken. Here is Oksana, a medical nurse from Lysychansk, and these are her first steps. Mikhailo and his bionic arm. This is our first bionic arm. Serhiy and Yulia, our Romeo and Juliet. The prosthetics workshop is our matter of pride. A small one and now a large one. And by the way, it's me, Nazar. And here are doctors coming from the whole world to help and to teach. And also we have the mental health center and houses for unbroken mothers. And this is the place of dreams and hopes. The place of victory. Victory over your own traumas. Someone stayed on the Zmyiny Island, on the Snake Island. Someone is not taking off his balaclava, and someone got baptized in the hospital. Hundreds and thousands of incredible stories. Every day we do prosthetics, rehabilitation, and treatment and surgery. We keep telling stories. We are looking for the money and building on and dreaming. This is our bridge to a new life. Thank you. And I would like to say that the National Rehabilitation Center Unbroken is a part of the largest hospital of Ukraine, the first medical union of Lviv. We've got 3 hospitals, 2 for adults, 1 for children, and a polyclinic and several rehabilitation centers, and we are a part of the municipal clinic. And last year, we actually gave treatment to more than 50,000 patients, and out of them, 17 were wounded. And we are the main hospital in the rear, and that's why we are taking some servicemen and most of civilians. And after the full-scale invasion, when guys were brought injured to us from the Yavoriv military ground, we understood that we have to reorient to military injuries, that we didn't deal with it before. Yes, we send our patients for treatment abroad for a period of time, but when the hospitals of Europe became oversaturated with Ukrainians because they didn't expect this influx of the injured servicemen, and of course we understood that Europe would not be able to host everyone. And that's why we decided that it's a high time that we started raising Ukrainian medicine. Ukrainian healthcare. If 2 years ago we mentioned that we want to have this in place, of course our proposals would have been rejected. But here we went to Israel, to the UK, the countries experienced at war, and asked them for their experience in the development of this system. And we decided to focus on surgery, reconstructive surgery, face reconstruction, traumatology, orthopedics, burns, because normally the traumas are resulting from mine explosions or blasts never deal without burns. And we are now the only institution in Ukraine that has prosthetics surgeons in our teams. And when a patient comes for amputation and prosthetics, we get a consilium, a multidisciplinary team of doctors with a prosthetic agent, surgeon, psychological and physical rehabilitation doctors, and they have a consultation on how to do this in the best way possible, because each third patient that gets to us after the amputation done in a different place requires this repeat amputation because the previous amputation was done in the wrong way. I could talk about this for hours, but I want to tell you why it is important for the state. We have shown that prosthetics can be in place in a hospital that could be effective, and now in Kharkiv they are also going to join the prosthetics workshop to connect it to the hospital, and this is done by the Ministry of Health, and the protocols of the ministry say that prosthetic doctors should be involved in every multidisciplinary team. We have the psychiatry department because mental health work should also be a part of the work with injured people. A year ago, we took the integral blood for the patients that were brought to us. So Lviv was the first one to do this, but now we replicate it throughout Ukraine. And in Lviv, we have houses for unbroken mothers, sports facilities. And we're inviting mayors from other towns and cities for them to come and to see how it happens there and to replicate this experience. And by the way, we have excursions, and tomorrow you will be able to join us at our excursion, and you will see what our hospital looks like. And in order to register, please, in your chat in WhatsApp, you've got the reference, the link to the registration. So please get registered and visit us.
My name is Natalia Sichevlyuk. I am a legal advisor in Transparency International Ukraine. It is an anti-corruption organization, a civil society organization, so my question will be based on my personal experience of working in civil society organization. So basically, after the 24th of February, a lot of information was closed. A lot of information on government, on public servant were removed from public access. So for me personally, it made my work way, way harder. And my question is, what do you think about such security measures? Do you agree with them? Are they really this necessary after the more than a year of the war? And how detrimental is this for civil society work? And also, how can we operate in such circumstances when a lot of very important information is closed? I'm speaking mostly about, for example, the state register of asset declaration was closed, and we still cannot win it back. So yeah, that's basically my question. How can we, as a civil society, make this civil control when we have basically no access to a very important information?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Olha.
З вашого дозволу українською відповім. Насправді нас
I
теж
will
всіх це
respond
дуже
in Ukrainian, if I may. We all are concerned about the exact same issue. I believe that the time has come not to be embarrassed about this discussion, and this is something that I alluded to in my initial remarks. There are some red lines, and they need to be in place. We have some information psychological warfare in place as well. But after the initial shock and after some required measures, we also need to restore the discussion on where the balance is. This discussion on limits and restrictions on human freedom has been ancient, but we still need to craft answers and solutions. It's essential to be talking about this. I do understand that your question is of rhetorical nature, and I fully concur with you that not in all situations this information closure is justified. As for our area of focus, the military and combat veterans, some legislative mechanisms are applied not to allow civil society to participate in decision-making. Unfortunately, good governance is something that is impaired under martial law in Ukraine, because we have some pastoring activists who want to offer proposals, who want to introduce the much-needed change. We are in continuous dialogue with the government around this matter, and we try to explain to them that no good solutions are possible if they continue like that. This rhetoric that you referenced is unfortunately employed by certain stakeholders to block their own work or not to do certain things. The same holds true of all the registers. There's a big question mark about the uniform register of combat veterans. It will be a large database that will be essential for veterans' policy shaping. This register is not operating yet, and hence a lot of safety and security concerns about it. It's not justified. This is a short answer to your question. And as civil society, we need to brace ourselves for a acrimonious and heated debate about it, because our voice has to be robust, powerful, and we need to do everything possible to make it heard.
We are right on time. And I must admit that looking at these amazing professionals, each in their own fields, it becomes clear that that was Ukrainian civil society that actually empowered and inspired Ukrainian government to be so creative, so brave, so initiative. Thank you so much. Thank you for this panel, and thank you for staying here and listening to us.